This is part 2 to the diagramming assignment for Photoshop. In part 1, I introduced the toolbar to you, and in this one we'll go over some items on the Layers palette. The Layers palette is found in the bottom right-hand corner of the Photoshop interface. Alright, let's start. We'll go from top to bottom on the Layers palette. Layers are what make Photoshop powerful. By isolating different things on different layers, we can edit objects and text and effects separately and can create a nice composition. In the top right corner is the opacity feature, and opacity can make the layer more transparent or opaque, in a sense more see-through or more solid. And you can change the opacity by typing in a number or going to this triangle. Or if you actually put your mouse here and hold down in Photoshop, you can actually slide your mouse along the word opacity, and that will also turn down or increase the opacity or the amount of transparency. Alright, next to opacity on the left side, we have what are called blend modes. So let me type that in. Remember, you have a word bank on the bottom of your worksheet. And this is blend modes. And the blend mode defaults to normal. And when we open this triangle up later, you'll see a list of 15, 20 or so different blend modes. And basically, what that does is changes how one layer interacts with another layer. And you can make some easy adjustments on pictures by changing the blend mode. We will be changing the blend mode to multiply and screen just to see the effect it has on a photo. We'll do this later. Underneath the normal or the blend modes is lock, and you can lock the transparency of a layer and some other things here, so we will probably only get to locking the transparency. We'll talk about that later. Notice that there are eyeballs next to each layer, and if the eyeball is on, that means the layer is visible. If the eyeball is gone, you've clicked on it so it disappears, then that layer becomes invisible. And sometimes you'll want to do that. I use the eyeball on and off to take a look at before and after effects. Alright, now you notice this green arrow points to the top layer. This is a layer, and we have 3 layers underneath the top one here. Notice there's something unusual about this layer. It's got 2 different boxes inside of it and then a little chain link here. What this is an adjustment layer, and we'll talk about adjustment layers in detail coming up. But for example, you can make a photo black and white just by turning on an adjustment layer, and then you can bring back some of the color by applying this box. And this box here is an adjustment layer mask. And so we will be doing some masking. And you'll notice there's a white section and then there's a dark black section around that. What this means, the black section here means that we have painted black on the picture that we want the color to show, and the white section there means we want that part to stay black and white, because this is black and white adjustment layer, for instance. We'll get to this later, but you'll hear me say frequently that black hides, white reveals when we do masking. Black hides the effect. In this case, it's the black and white effect. So if we put black over that adjustment layer, that means we're hiding that effect, and white reveals the effect. And we'll get to that more, and you'll see it in action. Alright, you notice that this layer is in blue. That means I've clicked on it I've selected it. So this is a new layer. You can tell it's a new layer. There's nothing in it. You see the checkered pattern there. And let me write in. This is either selected. Oops. Undo. Hang on. Try again. This layer is selected. Let's get rid of that. Or we could say that the layer is active. And this is a big deal. Photoshop is a fairly complicated program, but very powerful, and you can do lots of different effects. But if you don't pay attention to which layer is active or selected, you can make some mistakes and actually get stuck and not know why you can't apply a command or feature or selection. And that's because sometimes you're on the wrong layer. So always pay attention to which layer is selected or active that you want to work on. All right, this layer here, it says background copy, and you'll hear me say frequently, this is the duplicate, or I'll tell you to always duplicate your background layer. It just makes it easier to make changes or change your mind. You can easily delete this or trash this and start over by making another duplicate. Let me scroll down. Okay. And then we have these buttons down here at the bottom, and this FX is for special effects, which we'll take a look at later. This one is called Add Layer Mask. We'll get to that maybe as one of our last things that we do in our unit. Right here is where the adjustment layers are, and when you click on an adjustment layer, like black and white adjustment layer, it will add a mask in for you. In this case, you could add a mask manually, but when you go to here, it'll put it in. This button here is the new layer button. So for instance, here's a new layer, and that was created by clicking on this button. So I'll click here to type in new layer. All right, and here's the trash can. To trash a layer or delete a layer, you would just drag a selected layer right on top of the trash can to delete it. All right. This will start making more sense as we start working on projects, but have this layers palette diagram or worksheet available to you as we start learning how to do our first project.